Welcome to the Hot Rod Hangout Podcast.
Whoop whoop.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley.
And tonight we have Paul Lyons on the podcast. What's going on, man?
How you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we just living a dream. Well, you actually know how warm and toasty it is because you're actually coming to visit Florida right now.
Yes, that's right. I'm coming to you from St. Augustine, Florida. I'm at American Coventry. It's the Jaguar shop down here in St. Augustine, Florida.
Very cool, very cool. So what originally got you into this crazy car obsession?
Well, I didn't have a choice. I was kind of born into it. Special interest, automotive hobby has been my surrounding my entire life, from it all starts family first, and my father had his interest in American muscle cars, which weren't really American muscle cars at that time. I was born in 1967, so in the 67, you had a lot of choices, and they were all starting to come in strong. You had Chevelles and Mustangs and Novas, and that was what my father had, was a 66 or 67 Nova small block 4-speed car. There's still pictures of it floating around the house, and my father actually duplicated that car and built himself another one 5-7 years ago, and that's what he continues to have today is the same car he would have had in high school.
Very cool.
So I was born around this, and just my father didn't really work in the automotive world, but he was a custom painter and did a lot of custom paint work, and for cars, boats, motorcycles. And, being a little kid, that's what I did, is I followed in on his coattails to work and sanded on gas tanks and sanded on fenders for him growing up. And it gave me a direction to go. And, weekends, we'd go out in the boat on the bay, on Chesapeake Bay. Growing up in the Washington, D.C. area, we had a lot of choices. We could go to the mountains. We'd go to the water. You could stay at home. A lot of car events that were even in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Car events on the East Coast, Mid-Atlantic, the car culture was strong. That's what you did. And you had the rise of the monster trucks and the introduction of the import scene. If you don't really see it back then, it wasn't talked about back then, but Datsun 280Zs were coming in the 70s.
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't, at that time, it wasn't the Hondas and the stuff like that. It was more the fair ladies, the Datsuns, and yep.
And you had a lot of Italian cars back then that were kind of cool cars that I didn't even pay attention to back then, but they were just an average another car on the road. It was your transportation.
Yeah.
And it was an extension of yourself, and cars were taken a lot more personal. And today, it's just turn the key and go to and from point A and B. Back then, it was just part of your life, part of your culture, part of the lifestyle. Oh, and that just continued on with me.
And exactly, you got with a newer car, or even people that have only experienced newer vehicles, they don't understand the soul. They don't understand, the passion that you had to have. You didn't have to be a mechanic, but you had to know a little bit about the car that you drove because it required that. And the squeaks and the rattles and all of the stuff that kind of brings back, I'm a little younger than most of the guys that kind of go with the stuff that we like. But it's sometimes it's funny to hear them talk because the stuff that I identify with in an old car is the same stuff that, they dig. It's when you shut the door, it sounds like you're shutting a door. When you're driving down the road and you can hear the motor, you can hear the exhaust, you can hear the suspension. you're interacting with the car, where now a new car, they're trying to make it where you can't hear anything on the outside. They want it to be as quiet as possible.
They don't want any human interaction with the steel, with the machinery.
Yep.
They don't want you and the machinery to become one. A lot of people, and I'm going to jump around here a little because we were talking about my history and what got me going, and it was, you know, that family first and uncles and godparents and, you know, that whole surrounding of the community. But people say to me, how did you think of that? I'm like, well, I didn't think of that. It told me. The metal can kind of talk to you. The car, like you're saying, you know if cylinder number 5 is down a fuzz because it's not quite running quite right.
Yep.
And the average person is just not going to, oh, it's running. It's making noise. Did it start? Yeah, it started. But it's not performing quite right. Now you have to have a computer to tell you that the, you know, cylinder number 5 is down a little. Whereas somebody of my generation or older, man, they can feel it in the seat or just grab the steering wheel and tell you. Or you know, how to tweak the carburetor screws just a quarter turn one direction or the other to smooth it out between summer and winter.
Yep.
And then you get into the really almost the laboratory rat guys that get all scientific about it and, you know, get into the stoichiometric scenarios and air fuel ratios being perfect and the dense air at sea level. And I'm like, no. If the car runs, it makes noise and it's hitting on all 8 cylinders. Let's go out and burn some tires.
Yep. And that's a lost art. You know, vacuum gauge and a screwdriver used to be able to get you right where you need to be, and now it's like, like you said, you got to have a computer. You got to plug in. The motor's got to tell the motor's got to talk to the body. The body's got to talk to the transmission. The transmission's got to talk to your computer. And you know, this is coming from somebody that's swapping an LS into a Cadillac, but you know, but it is, you know, and the reason that it's getting the motor and trans is one, because that's what came with the car. But let's face it, the transmission that come in a 62 Cadillac is garbage.
Yeah. But it was 1962 technology.
And in 1962
to have an automatic transmission,
right?
That was really big.
Yeah, in 1962 it worked great, and it was the future. And it was. You know, everything progressed. You know, we wouldn't have, it's getting a 4L60. We wouldn't have a 4L60 if it wasn't for the Turbo 350. We wouldn't have a Turbo 350 if it wasn't for the Jetaway.
Correct.
You know, even when Power Glides came out, that was a garbage transmission until people figured out that they held power, and now you could take it to a drag strip. But then, oh, if I change this, it makes it stronger. And then, oh, now all of a sudden, 90% of your drag cars have that transmission in it because it works.
And every drag car out there that has a Power Glide in it, you will maybe find 1 out of 10,000 that's a cast iron Power Glide from 1955.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's a change. It's all changes. It's all growing, but it originally started. You know, there's so much innovation, and it's funny because I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're real. You know, they're mini truck focused, newer stuff focused, and they were like, you know, we're just coming out with new stuff, and I'm like, you're not. And they're like, what? I'm like, a body drop is channeling. Y'all call it body dropping.
Yeah.
Hot rod guys call it channeling. You're swapping in LS motors. We swap in carbureted small blocks. You know, it's, you know, if you had a 4-banger, you swapped in a flathead or a small block Chevrolet or a Ford or whatever the case may be. We're all doing the same stuff. It just is different. You know, the the original hot rod guys were removing stuff off. You take the hood off, you take the fenders off, you take, the stripping it down. Well, it's the same with the somebody shaving a door handle on a newer car.
It truly is. The customizers of the 50s. Now, let's go back into the 50s, and let's talk about some of the founding fathers of our hobby of where we are today.
Oh.
With some of these guys, we all know their names. We don't need to go name dropping nothing. Some of these guys with what they were doing, and like you said, the channeling, the sectioning, the chopping the tops, the shaved door handles, taking the front fenders off of a Packard and putting them on the rear of a 36 Ford. So you could have a fat tire under the rear of a 36 Ford and stay within your local jurisdiction laws.
Using hoods as trunks, using trunks as hood panels, cutting. There's so many, and Frenching headlights in from a different car because you like those headlights better.
You like those headlights, or you like those tail lights, or like you said, the French work, or the sunken scallops that go along with it, and the restyling. Well, okay. This is what our founding fathers of our hobby did. And because of federal guidelines, I cannot take my 2011 Honda Fit and chop the top and shave the door handles. Because with shaved door handles, they say that it can't pass some inspection, that in the event of an accident, a rescue worker can't get to me and open the door.
All right.
So therefore, it can't be titled in certain states if it has a shaved door handle. And these regulations that have been thrown at the newer generations and the newer car cultures, they have found their ways around it. They just don't shave the door handles that way. They recess them and put the King Diggett door handles on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or another model door handle. I mean,
another model. Yeah, exactly.
There's plenty of trucks and late 80s, early 90s vehicles with Pontiac Sunfire door handles because they look flush. They look better.
So suspension modification.
Okay, not a necessity. You can't be too low. Okay, well, if I can adjust it, I can ride low, and when you see me, I can air it up or juice it up and make it where you're happy with it.
Correct. So, there's ways of, every time we want to do something to our cars, they seem to find out a way to stop us.
Yep.
And
you just got to play in the gray area and get back to what you want to do.
Exactly. You stay in the gray area. So for me, and you kind of know about this, with pre-48 automobiles, there's really no rule book. There's no state in America or no DOT that I'm aware of. I'm sure one of your listeners will correct me somewhere. It's maybe in California, that on a pre-48 car, they can't impose any kind of emissions standards. They can't tell you have to have a seatbelt or wear a seatbelt because that car didn't have a seatbelt. And they can't force you to add a seatbelt. Turn signals. They're a luxury. They're standard today.
Yeah.
But they were a luxury item. Brake lights. A lot of cars, especially, in Depression era, we didn't have the material, so they only used one brake light on the rear of a car. So by today's standards, you got 3 brake lights on the back of a car. Great. We've improved. We've done the safety items, but there's still going to be the special interest. So the guy that wants to take, and I don't think there's one out there, but the guy that wants to take the Honda Fit and chop a top and restyle it, he's kind of limited and can't. But that same person could take the top off of a Model A and restyle it.
Yeah.
without any issues. Now, there's no difference. Your skill is your skill. The equipment, it's all the same, and it's going down the same road around the same people. So I don't quite understand where their mindset is on this, but I'm just going to enjoy our hobby the way we have it.
Well, and that's what it comes down to is we need to understand that there's not so much of a difference. Me and you were talking before the podcast a little bit, and we brought up the fact of, it took you a little while to kind of get recognized where the people give you the time of day. And
yeah,
I've run into, because again, we're kind of in the middle. I'm not old enough to be old school hot rod guy, and I'm also not young enough to be the guy that's, I haven't officially made my name known. We mildly successful podcast, and people are starting to notice who I am. But a lot of times, if it's an older guy that I'm trying to have a conversation with, it's going to take me 10 or 15 minutes to gain his respect, to want to open up, because there's been so many people that don't care. And he doesn't want to share the knowledge, because if you don't care, why does he want to tell you? So it takes a second to kind of get your foot in the door. And I love having conversations with 70, 80, 90-year-old people that even if you're not a car guy or a car girl, you identify, your car, for example, a Model A. Someone in that age range took that car, that was their hot rod in high school. They identify with that car. And it might not be as radical as some of the cars that are, out there now. But like my wife's 54, for example, at least every time we drive it, at least one person goes, oh my gosh, I took my wife to dinner, or, my grandpa had one of those on the farm, or this or that. And it evokes an emotion, and it's kind of like, this is the connection and you don't have to be a car guy. You can be a run of the mill person and just know. And I've gotten it a couple of times. Oh, I don't really know what car it was, but it looked kind of like that one. And you can see them hitting in their memory of the good old days, the simpler times, because it's really, really easy to get complacent and life kind of gets in the way a little bit, and you're like, oh man, this is kind of bad. But if you take a step back and think about it, we have information at our fingertips. We've never been able to communicate as readily as we can right now. And yet it's the least amount of communication that we can have. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah.
Now, again, when I built the Model A, I was coming out of a little bit of a funk, a little bit of a depression, where I was just a functioning depressed. I would go to work, I'd come home. I'd go to work, I'd come home. I'd go to work, I'd come home. And I was working in some of the most badass shops throughout the country. I'm playing with some of the most badass cars there was ever out there. People would just drool, saying, you have a dream job. I'm like, it's just, it's what I do for a living. Yep. And I was playing with, a lot of exotic cars, a lot of imported, a lot of multi-million-dollar cars, a lot of Ferraris, and it meant nothing to me. It really did. It's hard work to work in a restoration shop and restore $1 million cars. It's not an easy task, and it's been beat into me for 10, 12 years of working in the restoration industries that everything takes 3 years or more. Back then, this is, over 20 years ago. Everything takes $125,000 or more. Doesn't matter. 1985 Yugo, 250 GTE Ferrari. Both cars are painted black. Both gallons of black paint cost the same amount of money. Why is the Yugo any different than the Ferrari? Well, nobody's going to restore a Yugo.
Right.
Anybody who has the 250 GTE Ferrari will probably restore it. So here's your customer base. These are the guys that will spend the money, because nobody's going to spend, back then, $100 an hour labor to do body work on a Yugo. It's not going to happen
unless it's like they identify with that car.
Even
and
the guy that identifies with it, you're right. It doesn't matter. But even that guy is not going to spend the $125,000.
No, I wasn't saying that, but I forget what TV show it was, and what was it? It's not Gotham Cars. The guy does really awesome restoration work, but you watch some of the episodes and you're like, there's no way that person's going to pay that to fix it. That car's worth, $30,000, and he just gave him a bill or an estimate for 60. There's no way.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, it was grandpa's truck, and now they have an emotional attachment to it. Well, okay. Or you see it, we took her car, Ashley's car is patina. It's a factory paint, or the bottom of the car is factory paint. It's got rust and stuff like that. And an older guy, you want how much? And I'm like, it's just a thing, man. Like, what needs a full restoration? And I'm like, well, this isn't the car you restore. This is the car that you get in and you can go drive it. And you don't care if somebody door dings you. This isn't the car that you put $100,000 in. It's still a 54 Chevrolet 210. It's not, Elvis didn't drive it.
Yeah. So, you're figuring out, and I'm just going through this depression thing, and I didn't even realize that's what it was, but that's kind of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And because I felt that I could never have something nice again. I'd lost everything that I'd had nice once before. I'd been there once before, but now I just play with everybody else's stuff. I get paid very well, and I just go to and from work and live that 9-to-5 life.
Yep.
And I came home one day, and I watched a YouTube video of what Chris Walker did with that one build-off with the Nomad. And it's not a Nomad. It was a 4-door wagon that, was really nothing but junk off in the corner of the yard. And I watched what Chris Walker did in 30 days for under $3,000, and then drove the car for 3,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why am I spending hours and hours and hours sandblasting and sending parts out for CAD plating and making sure that this door gap is just perfect, and, set up and tear down at these indoor shows, and living out of brown paper bags, traveling the country on somebody else's dime. Yeah, it's fun, but it's hard work, and I'm not having any fun because I'm doing this for everybody else. And I see what Chris Walker did, and that was the kick in the ass I needed. Because from that day forward, I said, no more shiny cars. I'll make money off of them, but I got no desire to have a shiny car. And I did kind of what Chris Walker did. And it's funny you bring up 54 Chevrolet. I built a 54 Chevrolet for under $3,000. I did it in about 6 months' time. And my wife and I had a lot of fun in that car for 2 years. But she really hated the car. She just put up with me and it. But she knew it made me happy. And she wanted to move into something nicer than that 54. And finances were way, way, way tight. And so we did agree to buy a Model A. And we found the right car and just happened to be able to buy it. And I spent a couple years making it start, stop, and steer to what we have today. And, again, I learned what not to do from other people. So there's areas where I spent money and there's areas where I didn't spend money. But the way I bought that car and built that car was basically I stopped buying McDonald's or eating out at lunchtime for a little over a year, because $5 a day, $7 a day over a month's time is a lot of car parts. And that's how that car got put together. Is I didn't have the money to build that car, but I kind of reprioritized the money I had and decided to take my lunch every day instead of buying lunch. And that's what pretty much built that car to where we have it. It's incredible. I'm not too sure where I digressed and went down that path. It was the pricing. And it takes 3 years and $100,000. Nobody wants to do a Yugo, but that 250 Ferrari they'll do. But you got this whole culture and subculture that I didn't know existed, 15, 20 years ago, even though I'd been in the car culture and the custom car world of what's now known as rats and rat rods. These are the true spirited, hard, cold, or warm-hearted people who build in their garages independently and get out and enjoy and don't care about that $40,000 shiny paint job. They just want to be able to run to Maine and have lobster dinner and then go to St. Louis and have barbecue. And that's kind of where I am and why I'm so thrilled about seeing this high-class trash invitational build-off.
Yep.
This is going to be an epic situation, and he has put so much thought and planning into it, his life experiences to put this kind of event together, I think is incredible. I think he was good in his vetting and selecting the builders in the 4 different classes and showing what you can do.
And I think with his and our audience knows that the next quite a few episodes are builders from this. And I think from looking at who he selected, I think that there's going to be a vast difference. I think everybody's going to bring something a little different. You're not going to see 4 or 5 of the same style of cars. And it's because there is subsection of rat rods. There's the rat rod, my version of a rat rod, which is the unkempt hot rod. And then there's the guys that go a little wonky and they're outrageous and they're more of a
art.
Look at me.
More of an art car.
Yeah, an art car. There it is, an art car. They're more looking at, what can I add to this? And my wife loves seeing those cars. There's quite a few of them around us, and the little Easter eggs. There's a 10 millimeter flat wrench as the gas pedal, or those little cool. They're cool to see, just not my style. But I feel like the way he chose the builders is you're gonna have a vast difference of cars.
With 4 different classes, and from, I don't want to say novice, but we'll just use the word newbie because I think that was the word he used.
Noobs, yep.
So the newbie, who is not necessarily a novice, the blue collar, let's keep them off to one side, but still group them together. And I'm sorry to those individuals that if you feel that I shouldn't have grouped you together, I'm going to group you together for a second. And then I'm going to take the OGs and the outlaws, and I'm going to group us. I'm in the build off as an OG.
Okay.
I'm going to group us together because there are OGs and the outlaw class builders that are very, very high caliber people that can do some amazing stuff. They've proven themselves as doing amazing stuff. But you are 100% correct. We got, I don't know if it actually works this way or not, 25 and 25, but I grouped it into two parties. So we're going to go with 50%, 50%. 25 people of the OGs and the outlaws, you will not see two different builds or two of the same style build. There is going to be 25, 100% different styles.
Very much so. And I also feel like you're going to get some of the newbies and some of the blue collar builders. Some of those guys, I feel like they got grouped.
There's 25 separate builds there too. I don't think you're going to see.
No, but I feel like I feel like some of those guys are going to come out. They're going to come out swinging because it's not necessarily. They already have. It's not necessarily that those guys are less. It's just that they don't have the access or the repertoire. You know, you guys in the OG and the outlaw class, you have a catalog of these are the cars that I've built. You know, this is my shop, or this is, you know, I have these guys. Some of these guys are hungry, and
yes, they are. They're hungry. They may not have acquired the equipment and tooling that the other 25 have acquired. Right. They may not have been surrounded. Mm-hmm. You take a wino off the park bench in Manhattan and set him in front of a piano, and it's a good possibility if you surround him by concert pianists, a month later he's playing at Carnegie Hall.
Right.
It's the same thing with these car people. Mm-hmm. If we take somebody like one of these, I'm sorry to say it, newbies, and an OG or an outlaw or even the blue collar guys have influenced.
Yes.
If any of us have influenced any of those younger or the new people coming in the past, and that's why you're in it now, that's fantastic. I'm deeply humbled by that because that's why I am where I am today. It's because of the people I surrounded myself with. So we got the 25 in the outlaw and the OG class, and then you got the 25 in the newbie and blue collar class. You are going to see at least 25 completely separate ideas of builds. Mm-hmm. You may see some crossover between the first 25 and that second 25, where you may end up seeing two Model A's or two C10 pickup trucks.
And you're gonna get some crossover even in the same class, because styles, you know, certain elements of the build will be similar because of because of just want, you know, either y'all are all dealing with a budget. So
yes, that's what's really going to help separate this. And, you know, anybody, the deep pockets usually win any competition like this, because I know people that have zero ability to tell which end of the screwdriver to hold,
but they can open up
their
a catalog.
Pockets are so deep.
Yeah.
Their pockets are so deep. They do win some prestigious awards at car shows because they paid other people to do it. They cannot do it themselves. And this competition, this little gathering, because I don't even consider it a competition, because I guess one of the ways I don't consider it a competition, I consider it a privilege to be asked to be involved, is I'm not in it to win it. I'm in it to enjoy building what may be my last build. Who knows? But I do have at least one more build in me. So let's go ahead and tell your audience what my build is on those that don't know what I'm building for the high class trash build off. And my selection is with a Jaguar.
Okay.
Again, I'm not in it to win it. My budget is very limited. I'm in the OG class, which, you're limited anyways to a $10,000 budget. But I don't have 10 grand in a bank account that's just free up and clear to go blow on a car. So we got to go into this very, very bean counting conscience. And I'm starting with a Jaguar. And originally I was going to start with a 69 Jaguar XKE Roadster. Well, restored, these are $200,000 cars. Well, it backs to our earlier conversation. Everything takes 3 years and $125,000. That was 20 years ago. Well, now they take 3 years and $250,000. So this particular Jaguar XKE that I was going to do as the build car, the price tag in it, hey, if anybody out there wants an XKE, this one's for sale, $3,500. I felt that spending 1/3 of my budget up front was not going to leave me enough to come in with a completed car under 10 grand that start, stop, steered safely and go out and do its thing. So I passed on doing this XKE because I could not get it as low dollar as I needed it to be and stay in budget. And I could have just fudged the numbers and said, hey, man, this guy paid me to take it off his land. And from the videos I'd show, that's very believable. But that's not the case, and I'm not going to lie about it. So what I ended up striking a deal with was on a Jaguar Mark II from 1962. The 1962 Jaguar Mark II is basically a 62 XKE, but in a four-door sedan.
Okay.
So one difference between this sedan and an XKE is the rear suspension. It does not have an independent rear suspension like an XKE.
Okay. That was my question. I'm not real familiar with Jaguars, but I have seen quite a few use the independent rear suspension.
Yeah. That is a key factor of these cars. However, it was not going to be what was used in the XKE build car if that was the body I ended up with. It was going to have like an S10 rear or a Ford Mustang rear under it anyway.
Oh, okay.
Just for the simplicity of it. Because like our earlier conversation on a gallon of paint, the same for the Yugo or the Ferrari, bearings do differ. And the amount of bearings and the price of the bearings in the hubs for an independent rear Jaguar are more expensive than an axle bearing on an S10.
Well, and so even other suspension components, you have links and control arms and blah, run down the list. You can run a 2-link or a 4-link suspension. It's 4 bars.
I get do a ladder bar. Do a ladder bar pullover suspension under the back of an XKE a whole lot cheaper than what it would take to take a rear end from an XKE that's been sitting in the weeds for the last 30 years to make it operational.
Yeah, going through it and having to replace everything.
Budget-wise, and we're doing a wrap build anyway, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can put whatever components you want in it. It's not a Pebble Beach Concourse restoration, which is where my mindset has always been. Because I made money. This was my career. This is how you do things. 100% correct. If it's not correct, then it's incorrect. This is just things you live by. If it's not correct, it's incorrect. If it's not Pebble Beach quality, don't even bother doing. So now my mindset has changed that all it has to be is safe. As long as it's safe, who cares which setup is under that car? So what? Okay, that's your thing to have the proper bolt heads pointing in the right direction.
Right.
It's not my thing, buddy. Because when the hood's down, nobody sees that bolt head pointing in the right direction.
And also,
up.
you see it so much like, oh, well, if it was my car, well, good thing it isn't. It's not your car.
Exactly.
And it's only got to tickle me.
Well, here, write me a check and it can be your car.
And then you can do whatever you want to it. But
the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you're driving a 69 Dodge Dart or a 1933 Bentley. Going down the road, that other guy next to you giving you the thumbs up, he's giving you the same thumbs up.
Oh, yeah.
The plastic trophy that you get over at Dairy Queen, it's the same plastic trophy given to the Ferrari and the Bentley and the Mercedes as it is the Chevette. And I've seen a lot of Chevettes and Pintos get the same trophy as the $100,000 custom C10 lifted 4x4 Blazer.
Yeah.
It's just, you're going after the same notoriety. It's the same prestige. It's the same bragging rights. You got a trophy at Dairy Queen. Congratulations. So, when you say you got a trophy at Pebble Beach, you're kind of saying something. But you're telling me that you're a rich snob. And, I mean, you can delete that out if you want. I'll leave that up to you where you edit that one. But that is my feeling. Well, the guy who says that's what that is.
No, and I'll leave it. And it's not it's not a I say it constantly. I know people that enjoy their cars. They spent the $250,000 and they took it to Grand National. They took it to, they went to go win an Amber. They went to go Riddler, fill in the blank, anything, and they won it or they didn't, but the car's done. Like, that's it. That was built for that. And that's what it is. And those people are A-okay with opening their garage door and going, that's a beautiful car, and shutting the lights off and going back inside. To me, that's not how I enjoy a car. But if that's how you enjoy it, fine. If you want to spend the money, you have the money and you want to spend the money to do a Pebble Beach car, fine, do it. It's not my car. The same as if I'm out somewhere and we're in her car, her 54. When are you going to paint it? It's got paint on it. Well, yeah, but it could be shiny. Well, it could. She don't want it shiny. Kind of dig it. Yes, the Cadillac's getting shiny
your
paint.
Attention. It got that other person's attention.
Right.
So it did its job.
But why did you do this? Because that's what I wanted. There's plenty of those cars, and I'm not going to mention anyone. You may have mentioned earlier the shop. I wouldn't own the car that they were going on and on and on about being awesome. I wouldn't own it. It's ugly. I don't like it. But somebody does, because they built the car and somebody fell in love with it and somebody else owns it now. Good for them.
Ask for every seat.
And there's guys out there that, I don't like Model A's. I don't like, I don't like 30s cars. I don't like muscle cars. I don't like this. I don't like that. Whatever. Fill in the blank. I enjoy cars, all cars, but I also know that I don't want to own a muscle car. Muscle cars aren't me. I also don't like I don't like stock ride height. I like cars to sit as low or on the ground. That's my personal preference. Am I ruining the car? To some.
You personalize at that point.
But just like the same guy that would tell you, oh, well, that Jaguar should have independent rear suspension on it. Well, why? Well, that's what it should have. No, that's what you think it should have. And that's the whole rat rod thing, which that term has gotten misconstrued. But that term originally was the punk rock, stick it to the man. I build what I wanted to. I built the car that I wanted to build. I like it. Doesn't matter. Me and you share a common friend, and it's fuck how it turns out. This is the way I wanted the car to be. So this is how I built the car. Is it going to be everybody's cup of tea? Absolutely not. My goal when I build something is for it not to be everybody's cup of tea. Because I want you to come ask me why I did it.
Here's what it comes down to. Is everybody, not everybody, but pretty close to everybody likes ice cream.
Right, but they don't all like vanilla.
Baskin and Robbins said, we're going to sell 31 flavors because not everybody likes chocolate.
Yep.
Not everybody likes just vanilla.
Yep.
So we're going to come up with 31 different flavors at our ice cream stand, and we're going to sell ice cream to everybody because everybody likes a slightly different flavor.
Yep.
Automobiles, special interests, cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, airplanes, model trains, whatever it is, that hobby, it's what your passion is. While dating many different women over a lifetime, I seem to be finding my way around horse ladies from time to time. And horse chicks thoroughly understand that passion of the automobiles because they have that same passion and connection with their horse. You don't get between a lady and her horse. And that lady knows that she doesn't get between me and the car. So that worked out well in certain relationships, but it's that connection.
Yes.
You have that. It's that sentimental value. It's that emotional attachment. And yes, people will spend the money to restore that Yugo because it was granddad's or whatever.
Yeah.
But more than likely, if granddad had a Yugo, I don't think it's still in existence.
Right. And also, just because somebody's into something different than you doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong.
Exactly. Again, back to the 31 flavors. It's all cars. So the Japanese tuner guys, it's no different than the Tin Lizzy Model T guys. It's just a different medium you're playing in. It's still the same start-stop steer. It's still the same go point A to point B. And it's that passion that you have.
And you have guys in all groups that you have purists that a Model T should be a Model T and it should never be changed. You have Model A guys that are the same way. Everything should have fenders, a hood, and engine covers. You know, everything should be this. You have muscle car guys that it needs to look like it rolled off the showroom floor. And then you have Model T guys that the first thing they do is cut it up into a T bucket. You have Model A guys, the first thing they do is take the fenders off and chop the roof. You have muscle car guys that I'm going to put the widest tire I could possibly fit in here. And if I can't fit it, I'm going to mini tub it.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many different avenues. And also the guy that is traditional to a T that doesn't like rat rod, that term, some of them are awesome. I have friends that are traditional guys that literally we have had extensive conversations on why I was ruining my Model A. And at the end of the conversation, it was, but it's yours. Do what you want to do with it. And then I've had traditional guys that I want to flick them in the nose and be like, dude, you're the reason that nobody wants to be this guy anymore. because you get so offended over nothing.
It's just kind of crazy. And again, this friendly competition to bring to the table and to bring to the America's public what kind of creations can be done. Again, going back to the term rat rod, it's been around for 25, 30 years now. What was fantastic back mid-90s, I had my other Model A, my 28 Model A, and I was traveling from Washington, D.C. area to Oklahoma City for the Street Rod Nationals in Oklahoma City. And it just happened to bring me through the Tulsa area, and we stayed in the just north of Tulsa area up on Grand Lake, Afton, Oklahoma area, which happens to be the home of Daryl Starbird.
Yes,
and
sir.
I didn't know that then. I knew who Daryl Starbird was because I'd been kicked out of many high school English classes for reading magazines about him. And so I just happened, again, in life, timing is everything. I just happened to have good timing and was able to attend the grand opening of the Rod and Custom Hall of Fame for Daryl Starbird that year in 95 at Grand Lake, Oklahoma. And that actually started a really good friendship. I had my Model A with me. And oh my God, that car was an unsafe piece of shit. That car was a lot of fun, but no, I'm very glad that Daryl did what he did and the way he did it, because I was a sarcastic little punk kid to him. And I still apologize for being the way I was that day, but he saw something in me, and he saw a lot of things that were unsafe on the car. And he was very nice, extremely nice, and kind of redirecting me to not being a smart-ass little punk kid to paying attention to the safety aspects of what you can do. And this was a couple of years before some problems in my family structure that led me down a different path that ended up into the Ferrari world, because I was playing around with street rods and hot rods and muscle cars and doing a lot of lowering kits and trucks, doing lift kits and doing a lot of just general maintenance and, general service work in the automotive world, making a living. But problems happened that ended up directing me towards some really good positive stuff, which landed me in a high-end restoration shop where I got to learn these things about if it's not correct, it's incorrect, and you can only do it this way, and the purest side of looking at things.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot. I learned a lot in that 10, 12, 15 years of doing all that high-end stuff. And I'm glad I did, because again, I learned what not to do and how to apply that higher end mentality of approaching these cars systematically. When you do the restoration, when you're doing the reassembly. Yeah. So when you're building something and you're doing the restoration, they come apart and they go back together, and they come apart and they go back together, usually 3 times throughout the course of the restoration. And you learn, again, what not to do, how not to scratch something. And when you're said and done, the final result, starting with a good foundation, you will always end up with a really good product.
Yeah.
If you try Frankenstein and stuff off of a bad foundation, you will never have a good product. You can do all the Frankenstein and you want, and as long as it's matched systematically, you will have no problem. Use the Audi brakes with the BMW on top of the Datsun with the Chevrolet mixed in with the Ford. And oh yeah, let's use a Chrysler Hemi in there for the power on top of all of this. You can do this. and this is the definition of rad as far as I'm concerned, multiple vehicles used to create one. It doesn't say anything in there about rust, patina. It doesn't say anything about the year, whereas with a street rod, they are restricted. It used to be prior to 1948. Now I think it's prior to 1985, or maybe it's prior to 2000. I don't know. But they kept changing the rules. Rat Rod Magazine pretty much said, there are no rules. Do whatever the hell you want. It's your car.
Yep.
We don't care. We're not going to judge you. We may ask you to explain, but we're not going to judge you. And we do want to hear your story. We do want you to explain why you thought of doing that. How did that work out? Okay, well, maybe you started a trend. Everybody's looking for Fiero front ends now because they want to use the Fiero front suspension because it just bolts in. It's all there as one piece, and you can get parts for a Fiero. And I'm sure there's junkyards full of Fieros. And, the engines were in the back, so when they burned up, the front didn't burn.
Yep.
Pinto, Mustang 2. That is such a common term. The Mustang 2 suspension that 99, maybe 98% of the cars on the road that are running around today that are not true Mustang 2s or true Pintos that say they have a Mustang 2 suspension under them, it's not. It's Mustang 2 geometry. It's Mustang 2 components and dimensions. But it wasn't cut out of a Mustang or out of a Pinto like it would have been done in the 80s. So 40 years later, you got people like Fat Man Fabrications and TCI and Speedway and Summit and everybody who sells Mustang 2 control arms and Mustang 2 this. But if you look at a Mustang 2, they're not tubular control arms. They're not coilovers. No Mustang 2 had a coilover. No. But this is what they call it. It's the geometry.
Yes, and that's what it is. The same with the triangulated 3-link, saying that it was, stock Mustang rear suspension. No, it's 3 bars. Same with the torque arm. Same with, all the stuff that, and again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is Chevrolet, Ford, Mopar, fill in the blank, has done thousands of hours of research, development, figuring out what's going to make these cars ride good, handle good, sound good, last. So use some of their knowledge that you don't have to pay for, because it's readily available now. You can go to a junkyard and see what a Mustang rear suspension looks like, on why it's so successful in going in a straight line, and adapt that to your project. Or take what the Mustang 2. Okay, well that suspension works really good. I want to get rid of crappy front suspension. Fill in the blank of whatever car it is. I can just use that geometry. It's going to be straight up. We got a shock, whether it's a coil over, whether it's coil suspension, whether it's air ride, whatever. Fill in the blank of suspension component, but you're using information that you're given to build something that's going to be the same way or have the similar effect. I don't have $1 million to go R&D a new suspension. So I let Chevrolet figure it out, or I let Ford figure it out.
Yeah, the research is already done for you. Use known existing components. We don't need to go to the magazines and build all the hot lick shit. You don't need to go to the speed shops. And speed shops are pretty much non-existent anymore. The internet destroyed the speed shops.
And also, I on my Model A, I was running a mid-sized Chevrolet disc brake kit.
Yes.
On a stock Model A front end.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, and they actually works very, very, very well. Yeah. But somebody else has already done the research and development, right. And all you had to do was buy the components. Back to this high-class trash build-off, though, with these particular builders, and as you mentioned earlier, some of I'm gonna go with throughout all four classes. Everybody's coming out of the gate. Not everybody, but they're coming out of the gate in all four classes, swinging for the fences. And we are going to see a lot of incredible, talented vehicles being put together. I do know this, that it's just the number, the probability. We have 50 builders. I strongly believe that 40 to 45 will be at the start line come 2027. I do think that over the next year and a half, somewhere between 5 and 8, 5 and 10 will either drop out, have some family problems or something that, just life monkey wrench thrown at them that's going to have to divert their situation, or their build just doesn't get completed in the year and a half time you've been given to do this. Yeah. I have a fear. I'm concerned I'm not going to be able to actually be at the finish line. I have made the purchase on the Jaguar that I'm going to be cutting up. The way I did this, again, I'm going into it with no money. Coming off of my relocation from Washington, D.C. area to Texas. And that relocation 3 years ago was extremely hard, a lot more harder financially than I anticipated. But we're through it, we're past it. And it's the happiest decision I've ever made in my life. The best decision I ever made in my life was to get out of the city and just live a nice, simple life. So with that being said, I been dragging around a 471 supercharger for many years. It's for a small block Chevrolet. I needed to put some money into it. It needed bearings. It needed gaskets. It needed attention, but it was all there and could be made a usable component if you put some bearings in it. I just never did and never bolted it on anything. So it's doing me no good sitting on the shelf. I turned that blower sitting on the shelf into some seed money for the build-off. So, again, I know how to do this. I cannot eat lunch for a year and cover the expense of the parts that it's going to take to do this car. And that's kind of the plan I have, is just build a car. You always figure out where the money comes from. You may not have it, but you'll figure it out.
Oh, and that right there, spoken like a true car guy.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out.
You always figure.
I'll figure it out. Now,
I'll figure it out.
I do, and I think I remember them. I think I remember him talking about this when he was telling us about the build off. You can buy budget, right? So, like, you bought. I don't know in what condition you bought your Jaguar, but you can sell parts to recoup budget, right? Or no?
Yeah. Yes, I believe that is a situation you can do. I don't think that I can go and buy, and let's just use the round figures from the Outlaw or from the OG class of $10,000,
right?
Because it's very easy to work with. So I have a $10,000 budget. I go and I buy a Corvette at the Chevrolet dealership, used car lot, and it's $9,990 out the door. I got $10 left. I put it in the gas tank, and basically have now spent my $10,000. But I have a turnkey car, and I drive home, and I stripped that car because the only thing I wanted from that car was the wheels. And I put the wheels off to the side. I put another set of wheels on it, and I sell that car for $12,000.
You can't go over the 10.
You can't go over the 10.
Gotcha.
And okay, you don't have a set of free wheels.
Right.
Because those wheels still have a perceived budget value
Gotcha.
of, say, $50 a wheel. It still has a scrap aluminum value.
Gotcha.
So, no, there's still a price assessed to it.
Right. So you could take, you in your example, you could buy the Jaguar for $2,000, $3,000, whatever.
Well, let's just go ahead and be completely transparent here. Because I got nothing to hide, I'll go ahead and start the line items on the spreadsheet right here and now. I paid $1,500 for this Jaguar Mark II as it sits where it sits.
Okay,
There's
so you could sell rear end or the rear end out of it for $50-$60, and that would come back to your budget.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's the way I understand the rules.
Okay. So please,
it really if one of your listeners can clarify that, but that is the way I understand the rules.
That was how I thought he explained it to me, and I'd have to go back and listen to our episode with him.
That's the way I interpreted what he explained, and I believe since you have interpreted it that way as well, that's pretty much the understanding.
Right. You can't buy it for $1,500.
You can't go over.
You can't buy it for $1,500 and then sell the rear end and the front end for $2,000.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's really back to the hot rod days. You know, the original hot rod guys of I have no money. I can buy this car. I can sell the parts that I don't want or don't need, and I can recover money to do an intake or exhaust or carb or whatever, or fill in the blank. Okay, cool.
Correct.
I'm super excited, not only because I know some of you guys, you know, with the, like I said, the portfolio of cars that y'all have built and they're outstanding. I'm super excited to see some of these guys that don't necessarily you haven't seen one of their full-on builds yet, to kind of see what they can pull out of their mind and push. And then you're also going to see a lot of those guys push themselves, you know, guys that have never necessarily done a suspension design are going to push themselves to, hey, I can't buy that $3,000 suspension system, so I got to take a look at that and try to make it myself. So
again, back to everyone's going to bring something different to the table. Everybody's going to have a slightly different build style. We're starting with a car that's $1,500 out of a $10,000 budget. I'm starting with a Jaguar. So I'm starting with, you know, these are not Mustangs and C10s and just your average car. So the bearings, like we said, for a Jaguar rear end are going to be more expensive than the bearings for an S10 rear end. So you put an S10 rear end back under it.
Yep.
So that's kind of the direction it's going to go. But I'm still going to have to do things like when it comes to the front suspension, it's going to stay Jaguar. The braking on the front is going to stay Jaguar. So I'm going to have to make all this work. I'm going to have an engine into it. Where I really differ from a lot of other people is, yes, this is not new to me. However, I've never done this for myself. I've built my Model A.
Right.
And that was because I had a thing for a pre-war car, and I wanted to do a Model A, a full fender, East Coast looking car. And I did the Model A. It's a good start, stop, steer, drive anywhere in the United States car. I've learned what I needed to learn, but I've never had the opportunity from a customer to cut up one of their Jaguars. Because if you own a Jaguar, you don't cut it up.
I was going to say that.
And I'm definitely not going to pay somebody to cut up my Jaguar.
Right.
So I get to do something for myself that is going to make the country talk. Talk good, talk bad, you're going to talk. That there's this guy in Texas cutting up a Jaguar. It's going to happen. I'm cutting this car up. We're going to restyle it some. We don't know exactly how we're going to go about the restyle of a, it's hard to make something that's kind of really sexy just the way it is really look better, but I think I can. A little chop top, a little sectioning, a little resculpting of the way the headlights are done. But to take everything I know from the restoration world of a high-end car and to take this Jaguar with a $10,000 budget and make it start, stop, steer, and be very presentable to the public to show that this Jaguar is basically a resto mod that still looks Jaguar, but Jaguar never made a car that looked like that. That's the challenge that I am going to bring to the table and do. What the next guy does next to me, I have no care for. It's your car, do with it as you want. It's going to be cool because of, who you are and your talent. But I don't think anybody, and I've seen some other people cut up some stuff. Sam Hart over in Britain, over in England, he cut up and did a Rolls Royce rat ride.
Mm-hmm.
That car was pretty badass. And there's been some other stuff done. Maybe it was a Bentley instead of a Rolls Royce. I don't remember what it was. But you'll never see somebody take a Pierce Arrow. Why not?
Yeah,
what are these cars?
You got Trash the Classics, which does the Burnout Rivals or one of them burnout competitions, and he does it with a Rolls Royce.
So I've seen some newer Rolls Royces done up. Andy Cohen, Junkyard Empire. So if you've done any background history checking on me, you know that I worked at Damascus Motors. Andy Cohen owned Damascus Motors, and it was talked about a lot on his Junkyard Empire TV show.
Right.
I was not on the show. I was not part of his Junkyard Empire situation, but I did work for Andy at Damascus Motors, and I got to see all that stuff. And Andy's got a Rolls Royce with a big block supercharged blower motor car. The thing's badass.
Yeah.
But it's still a modern day Rolls Royce. Let me see. Not even Andy Cohen would go and cut up, say, a 1930 Silver Ghost. I want the opportunity from some millionaire who doesn't give a shit to say, here's my 1930 Ghost. Why don't you put an LS motor in it for me? That's the next customer I'd like to have. The guy who really wants to do something different. If I had that guy, I'd go into the outlaw class and say, okay, guys, we're doing we're going to do an alcohol blower motor monster truck Rolls Royce. Yeah,
that's I can't remember what year it is, but it's it's not old, but it's an older Rolls Royce, and it has a blown big block, and then they have the Duramax Caddy Rat. It's a Cadillac.
Oh, that thing's badass. That one I know.
Yeah, they. I can't think of. I know he had bought another Rolls Royce Silver Streak. I think that he was going to do another one, but yeah, they're from Okeechobee, so down south. Travis Madman Mahan. But anyway, so I know you mentioned earlier that car shows don't really do a whole lot for you. But is there a show or event that you try to make every year?
There's no question about it. Every year especially especially since I moved to Texas. Tulsa. There's a show in Tulsa. I don't understand why more people don't know about it and more people don't come. It's in February. It's an indoor car show. Now, the Tulsa, and it goes with Daryl Starbird. Starbird Car Show Productions and the Tulsa Starbird Car Show. It's been going on for over 60 years. This is an indoor show where I can't explain it. If I have to explain and I can't explain, you won't understand it. You have to be a true car guy, and you have to experience it.
So fortunately for this conversation, our listeners are very familiar with Starbird.
Yeah. So the Tulsa Rockabilly Bash for the last 10 years, I've attended 8 of the last 10-year Rockabilly Bashes. The Starbird Tulsa show, if you came to me tomorrow and said, you got to give up this lifestyle, however, you are allowed only one show from here on out, what's it going to be? And here are your choices. You can spend a week in Monterey at Pebble Beach, or you can spend 3 days in Tulsa at the Starbird show. And it is no question. I wouldn't even think twice. It's Tulsa.
Yes.
Tulsa is the best.
Yes, that is
the
awesome
best show in America. I can't get more people to understand it. I have gotten a few people from the East Coast to come out and experience it as spectators. They are now experiencing it as participants. There is just so much going on at that event. Daryl, when he started putting this thing together many years ago, he knew how to not just draw the gate, but to keep you entertained once you were inside. So you didn't have to be a car person. You could be the wife of the car person with your kids. And because he has the petting zoo or because he has the Transformers, he does something to keep everybody involved and to keep you happy and entertained for 3 days and still want more, even if you're not a car person. So, yeah, that is the must-attend car show for me every year, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Well, on that note, before we go to the next question, shout out to Zach Parks and Mr. Randy Jackson with the Gasser Garage. Unfortunately, we're missing it this year, man, but I know it's going to be awesome. Is there a show or event that you've never been to that you would like to make?
Hot August Nights, Reno, Nevada.
You are the second person that's mentioned that show.
That is one show. Again, I was born into the car culture. I have lived it my whole life. I've seen a lot. I joke about it. I have done everything from the local Dairy Queen to the 18th green at Pebble Beach. My work has been displayed at Pebble Beach many times. I have attended Pebble Beach. It is no longer my thing. I got no desire to go back, but I have done it. And that's, it's a cool experience to have, but I've never experienced Hot August Nights. And that has to be done. It's on my things to do is I have to attend Hot August Nights at least once.
Well, I definitely want to invite you, if you're anywhere near the state of Florida, January 3rd of 2026, our show, The Hangout. It's all years welcome. We have a pinup show, a band, food vendors. Don Garlitz will be on the property, and we try to mimic the old school days of hanging out in front of your buddy's garage. Just the garage that you're hanging out in front of happens to be Don Garlitz.
And this is on January 3rd, you say?
Yes, sir. First Saturday of the new year.
Okay. Now, you understand that we've talked many times tonight that I've said in life, especially my life and its automotive history and everything, timing is everything. Well, today I've been discussing with the gentleman that has American Coventry, the AC Jaguar shop where I am, what my next return trip to Florida would be. And we're open for discussion that it would be sometime after Christmas, but probably come in before New Year's and then head back shortly after New Year's. So there's a very, very good possibility I will be in the state of Florida on that day. And I could do that is just like I'm going to do with Ken at the Bad Apple Bash, is attend Saturday and then halfway through the afternoon, start heading back to Texas until you guys talk me into saying, oh, you pull out a Cliff Starbird. I'll tell you a Cliff Starbird story real quick. Sorry, Cliff. Cliff Starbird in 2015. I was at the museum and I was hanging out with Cliff and a lot of the family and Starbird members. And this was at the inductee ceremony, the last inductee ceremony they had at the Hall of Fame. And I had to be leaving to go back to get my daughter in Tulsa and then drive back to Washington, D.C. So at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I said, all right, guys, I'm out of here. And Cliff said, tell me a story. It's his famous words to me. Paul, tell me a story. Here, have a beer, drink a beer with me, and tell me a story. Cliff, I can't. You know I can't. I got to go. Tell me a quick story. Don't worry about the beer. Just tell me a quick story. Well, it was midnight before I got back to Tulsa to get my daughter and then went on to D.C. So it's very possible if you say on Saturday afternoon when I say I'm leaving and you say, Paul, tell me a story, we will be there till midnight. It's very possible. That can happen. So, yeah, there you go. For the 3rd of January, it's possible you'd have a guest appearance from me.
Awesome, man. We'd love to have you. So, one last question, and then what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody that's trying to get into the car culture or car life or cars in general?
The best advice that I can give is some that was never given to me. And that is walk away. And what I mean by that is you will become very frustrated with something not going the way you expect it to do. You will become very frustrated trying to get that last bolt lined up into the panel where you've already punched 8 holes and you got 7 bolts in, started, and you just can't get that last bolt to line up. Do not force it. Do not try to make it do something that it's not wanting to do. Walk away. Stand up, turn around, go get a glass of water, step outside and just look at the stars because at this point it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So walk away. And you'll be very surprised that 5 minutes later when you walk back with a completely new perspective that it all falls back together the way it's supposed to.
Oh, yeah. And every 30-minute job is one broken bolt away from next weekend.
The other piece of advice that I can give that was given to me that I was kind of rebellious against and fought, but there's too much truth in it, and I will give this advice to anybody, and that is don't shortcut to save yourself 15 minutes. Spend the 15, maybe even 30 minutes, because spending an extra half hour up front is very likely to save you 3-4 hours on the tail end. And there's a lot in the restoration world where cars are blown apart. I'll come into a shop and they're like, well, how fast can you have that car completely blown apart? I need it over for sandblasting. Well, call the sandblaster, make your appointment for 2 more weeks. Because if you want me to disassemble that car, it's going to be 2 weeks' time. What do you mean? Don't even bother starting your job today. Just go home. Go find another job if you can't take that car apart by the end of the day. Well, I can take it apart by the end of the day, but you're not going to know where a single bolt goes.
Yeah, and that's
because it's just going to be blown apart, and everything's going to be thrown into a box the way 85% of the shops do it. Now, if you spend time on the front side, take pictures, make a little sketch, make note that the red wire is to the right and that the white wire is to the left. Make notes, take pictures, spend time in the beginning. It will save you ungodly amount of hours on the tail end when you can say, hold on a second, I got this piece of paper at the top of my toolbox where I sketched down that, yes, it's yellow, green, red, then white. Instead of somebody sitting there with a power probe for the next 2 hours trying to figure out where the red wire was supposed to go.
Yep. And
we have cell phones now with cameras on them. In the 80s and the 90s, even early 2000s, yes, we had some digital cameras and we had Polaroids and we could take pictures. But today, man, snap a picture, post it on your Facebook page, and in 2 years' time, when you need to retrieve which way that bolt is, you can go back into your Facebook page and retrieve how that picture was.
Yep.
We didn't have that option 20 years ago.
And that goes back to the whole what we were talking about with the project. You know, where'd that bolt go, or how did it go back together, or where's this part at? And it's just from, you put stuff together and then that got put over here, and it's a struggle. Well, before I quickly run through our sponsors, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, yes, I'd like to thank Greg from American Coventry for bringing me to Florida this week and allowing me the privilege of being his employee for a week at the American Coventry Jaguar shop here in St. Augustine, Florida. And again, family first, a definite special thank you. Shout out to my wife, Sherry Lyons, for being the most supportive wife of an automotive car culture guy who, at a drop of a hat, will turn around and look at his wife and say, honey, pack your bags because jumping the Model A, we're heading to, Fort Smith, Arkansas. And what's in Fort Smith? Well, never mind. It's a car show. I don't even have to ask. Let's go. She's very, very, very supportive of the hobby, of my lifestyle. I think she feels, well, hell, if he's in the garage building a car, I know he's not out fooling around. So that might be part of it. I will say that my life with cars has been a very big mental stress relief, where there's people that go other avenues. I'd rather pick up a hammer and beat on a piece of steel and turn it into a fender than some of the other stuff out there. And it's all in what you surround yourself with. You surround yourself with good, knowledgeable car people, you'll eventually become one of those good, knowledgeable car people too. Learn your niche. If you've got more of a niche for parts identifying, there's a big place for that in this industry. If you have more of a niche for telling colors and on the paint side of things and be able to do blends, man, follow through with it. Follow your passion, follow your dreams. Don't let anybody try to change you or redirect you. You know what's in your soul and what's in your heart and where to go with your life. Don't let somebody else try to control you and say that a 68 Camaro must have 68 emblems on it. No, man, it's your car. You want to put 69 emblems on a 68? I won't know the difference. And it's your car. You like those better. And who's to say it didn't come with a later model emblem? Do what you want. Have fun. Enjoy. There are no dress rehearsals. So we got one shot at this life. Do something good with it. And once you do something good with it, try to give back to the younger generation so they can follow through. That's about all I got to say.
All right. Well, make sure you go check out Why Not Fab. Make sure you go show Throttle Addict some love. Use the code word Hot Rod to get saved 15% off. Johnny Jalopy, thank you again for the awesome logo. Low income clothing, low income photo, and wrenching for the future. Psycho Fab. Looking forward to getting the caddy up to you so you can lay some paint on it. Till next time, guys, get out and drive your shit. Appreciate you coming on, man.